Hey guys and gals. Well, it's Mike White again, and I have a fellow group member on Facebook that has this image. And, I'm going to say, first of all, disclaimer, I don't know what the copyright on this image is. I don't know where it came from. So I don't have the rights to it or anything like that. But with the subject matter, kind of hopeful that nobody's going to get upset if I work on this. Please don't. But basically, this group member said, how do I convert this image into something that's quality, something that can be, how do I put it, like digitally printed at a good resolution. And, the first thing I want to say is congratulations to that person for knowing that this cannot be printed, in good resolution. I mean, it's obviously, displayed here on my screen at 100%. So that's 100% of the image that we have. And if we look at it, I'm going to go to properties, and it's only 44 KB, which is a sign that it's probably not good for digital printing. It's 452 pixels by 723. So you actually can print this, but you can only print it, realistically at like 1.5 inches. That's what the 452 represents, 1.5 inches wide, by 723. So that's about 2.1 inches. It's 300 pixels an inch. And then I can tell you, it's been saved. I'm going to zoom in here so you all can see it. It's got massive JPEG artifacts. So besides the fact that it's not the right size, that she has it at, it's also got these incredibly bad JPEG artifacts, which happens when you save things as a JPEG, which anything you upload to Facebook is likely to be converted to a JPEG. So if you found it somewhere like that, almost every image you find on the web that's not coming from an actual photo stock site is going to be low quality, because web developers save money and save time on download speed by compressing things. But what happens is people download something, then they re-upload it to Facebook or just any online site, so it gets recompressed by that website, and every time it's saved or emailed or whatever, it's just going to degrade every single time. So I've recently found some amazing features of Adobe Lightroom. I don't know how I was able to miss this for all these years, but I'm going to show you real quick. So let's just review this for import. And I'm new to this, so bear with me. Yeah, add one photo. So we've got that photo now. You can right click on this and hit enhance. And I've actually had this, have problems when I'm trying to do this. It gets locked into this generating preview and seems to get stuck at 5. So, if that's, I have a weak computer. Again, I'm not used to Lightroom. I don't know why that happens. But I want to show you this because it is truly amazing what Adobe is able to do with this photo. And I'm very impressed by it. So let me figure out whatever is going on, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I just literally canceled and then right-clicked and hit enhance again. So this is what it's doing. So this is what enhance is doing. This is not enhanced. And then you check super resolution and you get a slightly better result. So, I hope that comes through. I can see it really clearly on my monitor because I'm looking at this big and not on a phone. And there's a lot of what we call stair-step pixelation. So that's stair-stepping all around this image. And when you click the super resolution, it does go away. So every time I click the mouse there, that's the bad, that's the good. So this is beyond saving, in my opinion. These are JPEG artifacts. These little squares that show up all over the image, that's from JPEGs compressing and averaging pixels. The way compression works is it actually takes the pixels and tries to average them out so that there's less color information in the document. And that's what causes these squares. And then me using this super resolution, it actually makes those squares sharper. They look like less intense. And when you do this, it actually, it makes those artifacts come out cleaner, and it looks better. So I mean, don't get me wrong. This is wonderful what it's doing. Photoshop has really done a great job. Well, it's Lightroom. Adobe has done a good job. So I mean, this image is beyond saving. The Lightroom with super resolution will double the size of it, and you'll get something that's reasonable that you could probably print 2 inches by 4 inches. So how do we fix this? What do we do? Well, we've got to recreate it. And the people that are here for learning how to use Adobe Lightroom and learning about pixelization, that part of this talk is done. And now I'm going to actually show you how to recreate an image like this. And we won't achieve perfection. We'll achieve something that's reasonable. And that's what we're going to set out to do. So stay tuned. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is break down the different elements of this. So it's a lot. I mean, this is a pretty wonderful composition. And, we have the 2 crucifixes on either side. We have this font. We have this banner and this banner. So these are probably just easy flips, where we'll actually just use this banner, this banner. We've got the text elements that are mostly the fonts. Looks like we have different crucifixes down here at the bottom. And then we have this cool sword shape right here. Not sure how we're going to tackle that yet, but we have to start assembling these different assets, and we need to make sure that we're pulling those assets in a high quality or creating them from scratch. And so we're going to do a bit of both here, I think. So I'm going to assemble my list of items to put together and put them together. Okay, so I've got my list here. So we've got the font, we've got the banner, crucifix 1, that's the one at the top left, crucifix 2, we see that at the bottom left, the lion, the knight, the messy edge on the cross, the messy cross as I put it, and then the double-sided flourish at the bottom. So the first thing we're going to do is go on the font hunt. And, guys, that can be a very involved process. So, this is so complex sometimes, I don't even know where to start telling you to look, because, people say, what the font? Well, what the font almost always takes you to non-free fonts. I mean, it's in business to figure that out. So the first thing that I do is I literally look at it to see if I have a font that will work, so I'm just going to put a text object on here, and I'm going to put King. I'm in Photoshop, and I'm going to choose the color of that, and we'll just go with black, easier to see. And then I'm going to make it nice and big so I can see it, but not too big, because as I scroll through these fonts, we're going to see differences in size, so I don't want it to be off the stage. So I just want I got a 1200 pixel by 1200 pixel document here. I'm not going to actually use that. I'm just looking to find out, to find my font. So in Photoshop, you can actually just click here and then use the down arrow on your keyboard and look for a font. So you can just scroll through like this and try to find a font. Now, there's so many ways to do this. This is literally one process, is to just keep going through your fonts. If you want to go pull up the image and set it next to it, that's a nice thing to do. So let's just grab this and pull that on the stage here. All right. And I'm just going to hit OK. And that shows you how small Photoshop thinks the image looks good at. And so there's, let's get this king fairly big, and I'm just going to take away some of the other elements here So it's a smart object, but I'm going to rasterize the layer. And then we're just going to chop everything else. We'll just copy this part so we can see it better and not be distracted. So I'm just copying with Control C and then Control, is it Shift V? Yeah, Shift V, paste in place. And we'll just pull this up here. And you know what? It's going to look bad, but I just want it a little bit bigger so I can look at those glyphs a little better. Of course, I can zoom in. So I just use Control Plus to do that. All right, so let's just, continue to look for our font. And don't worry, I'm going to, speed this up. I just wanted to not miss the different things that you can do here. So, I'm just going through and, using the down arrow to try to find something that looks good. That looks pretty good. And it's not perfect, but it could make our version of this different. I mean, don't be afraid. Especially if you're, using something like this just for inspiration. I mean, when you find something you like, you go with it. So I know this is a free font. We have it in the layout designer at 143. So, that's a nice option right there. And I'm going to keep it. So when I do that, I just literally pull this one up and get it out of the way, and then right click and duplicate the layer. And then pull that down. And then I'm just going to keep working, keep looking through my font. So I'm just selecting again and flipping through that. And keep trying to find something that'll work. So, being married to a font being exactly like what's there, that's really tough. I mean, you've asked yourself to do something that's almost impossible. We can literally trace that font and make our own version of it in Inkscape. I'm not sure why this keeps taking me back through what I've already seen. All right, so another way we can find the font is what the font, and that's what you see the most often suggested in online forums and such. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull, the font off. I'm just drawing around this, and hopefully I don't flub that. And just trying to cut just the words. So let's copy that and paste it. Oh, it says it's selected area is empty. I need to come up here and copy, have the right layer selected, and then paste it. So now I've just got the words. And then I'm going to try to actually clean it up even more. I'm going to put a box around it. And we're going to select one of these black areas. And what I'm trying to do here, maybe successfully or unsuccessfully, I'm not sure yet, is create contrast. So I'm just painted that black. And, it makes it easier for me to see that, I still kind of have a problem. And that is this area right here. So let's see if I can cut that off. So let's just use let's close all this mess. And let's use our marquee tool. And I don't want to lose any of my font. Looks like I did a little bit, so that's okay. We just hit edit. Oh no, it's select, excuse me, and then select transform selection, and we're just going to pull that up a tiny bit. The G, I want to keep it. And then we'll just hit enter to confirm, and then we're going to do select inverse. And then I'm going to make sure I got the right layer. That's my king layer right there. And then hit delete, and that'll trim some of that off. So, we'll see what the font does with this, okay? So like I said, I'm trying to create contrast. And I just realized while I had the video paused that I could get a fairly good selection around the letters. I mean, there's some, imperfections here. But, what I'm trying to do is give the font system the best possible version of the font so that they can, find the glyphs that match, That's what you call individual letters in a font, as glyphs. So, this is a pretty good selection, and I'm gonna keep it. I just used the magic wand and kind of went around. So I'm gonna copy that and do Control Shift N again and Control Shift V. And now, I'm not sure what it copied. I think I needed to invert the selection. So let's just do inverse. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that layer. Well, let's just come back here, and just copy again. So now I've got the inverse. Copy that. And then I'll do Control Shift N, and I'll paste it again, Control Shift V. You're getting to see all the mistakes. Now I've got something that looks really nice, and I think we'll have a better chance of what the font making a good match. And I'm just going to do blending options, and I'm going to do color overlay. Let's do that. And I'm going to choose white because I already have a black background. And that is showing me more problems, which I've just got my eraser out here. So I'm just going to get rid of all the mess I've let be created here. I'm just erasing away all that's done. Okay, so it's pixelated. It's not perfect, but it's going to do something for us. So let's just take these two layers, and I'm going to duplicate those layers on new. And then I'm going to do image trim, transparent pixels, and then I'm going to save. So again, these steps are not necessary to find the font. If you have it on your computer, you just keep stepping through the way I was showing you before, but I'm kind of intent on trying to help you see all the different options. So we're going to go to what the font. Oh, that's my fonts. Well, that's interesting. That's not... Interesting. I don't know if this is a competitor. It's been a little while since I've done this. We'll find out. So let's try it. No, I don't want to save. Why do you pop that up? Please stop. Okay, it's got the font selected. Identify font. And here's the basic problem that I see is like this, is just taking me to pay for fonts. I mean, nothing wrong with paying for fonts, but if I did one for every single project I did, I'd be out $39, So let me try to find actually what the font, and understand, has that gone away? I know there's an app, and that's another option, is like to pull this open on your phone. There's What the Font app. Yeah, I remember having a nice... okay, well, I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to look, through this and see, what's changed since the last time that I looked at this. Okay, so I backed up and punted, and I found this What Font Is. And this seems, better. I don't know where my traditional What the Font website went to. I guess it's just an app now. Okay, great. So next step. Awesome. We recommend choosing this one. So they're looking for that high contrast. And yep, that's a K, that's an I, that's an N, that's a G. Great. Next step. Still don't see anything that I love here. So I'm going to pause and just keep looking. Oh, I actually missed a step here. Let's go back through this. Hold on. It's capital I, capital N, capital G. Display only free fonts. I love this website. And look, literally the best result that I've seen from any of these. So there's this UTM, then Chien Tron. Interesting. So it says free for personal use. Obviously, I'm not making money on this. It's just a free video. So let's see. Let's search for that font. So there it is on FF Fonts. There's Da Font. Font Space, one of my favorites. And look, that actually says license for public domain. Let's look at the text. Yeah, license is public domain. This is wonderful. So this is free, and I can use it for commercial use. So that's beautiful. I mean, I think this is the best result. I didn't even expect to get something this good. So thank goodness. We'll just free download that. And it's coming down as a zip file. So we're just going to extract it. We're just using the Windows extractor. If you need a better extractor, I always recommend 7-zip. And then we're just going to double click and then click install. While that's doing, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go back to our test area. I'm going to save this as, probably just going to save it in my downloads folder. And we'll call this font search. It's really a good idea to get a folder going. And I just have to set a good example and do that. Let's call this Project King. And so I'm going to save this font search here. And I'm doing that because I've got to close Photoshop and open it back up. I'm just assuming that installation process went well. And then we're going to go into our folder. And I'm just going to clean up because I can't stand it. I'm going to go back to my downloads and I'm going to grab these other pieces and put them in the folder so that I'm just not making a mess. All right, so Photoshop has started up again and we should have that font now. All right, so let's just select. I'm going to turn off all these other layers. Well, no, I can leave those. They're fine. And then I'm going to just find a layer that I want to edit. So there's this one. I'm going to select the Move tool and open my character window. If this is not showing, you just go to, what is it, Window, and find Character. Window, Character. All right. And we're just going to try to select UTM. Then Chian-Tron, don't know how to pronounce that. And look, it's almost an exact match. So, this is going way above and beyond trying to get the perfect font. I'm going to pull this up so we can see it. And we'll turn off that black layer. And, I mean, this you don't need to go to this level, but I mean it is definitely working out perfectly here, and I see that the font itself is a little bit this background part is rounder. Let's see if I can make that obvious. Let's make it red. So that this, I said background part, this font that we're copying from, we see more of a rounding effect. But I believe that's because our original had stroke. I mean, this is practically perfect. So there's a little bit of space issue there, and what you could do is if you're working in Photoshop, you can just stretch this out and try to get it to match more perfectly, and then keep duplicating that layer and using that. But this is really close, so we're going to make quick work of this. So this font and the fonts on the image are such a big part that I'm going to go ahead and start building the actual image. So, I know I told you to get all your assets together first, but, I'm breaking my own rules here because I'm just having fun, and we're going to, I just started a new image, 2400 by 3600, so that should be good to be printed up to 8 inches wide and 12 inches tall. So, 12 is a pretty good number to go with. Like either size. Now, if you really wanted it bigger than 8 by 12, then obviously you need to design it that size. And I'll say this, a little fuzzy is fine. If you take a 2400 pixel image and print it at 3600, which would be like 12 inches wide, it's going to be fine, you know? So, you know, because of the amount of effort we're putting into this, we might want to make the image bigger. You know, lots to say about that, but you know, I think that this is going to be okay. So, just dragging the image in again and waiting for it. I have my Photoshop set to pull even JPEGs in as raw, so I can take a good look at them. Anyway, that's why it does that. It might not do that on your computer. And that was great the way it popped on the stage, because you got to see exactly how big you know, this thing's supposed to be printed. You know. All right, so I'm just dragging it out, and I'm holding Shift and Alt. When you drop something in like I did, it automatically makes it a smart object. All right, so now we have our base layer here, and I'm just going to take the opacity down so we can see it, but we can see our text over top. And then, you know, we're going to use our text tool and start making some of these letters. And I'll just make one, and then you'll get the drift and probably not need any more help there. So let's just do... And we're going to drag that out and line it up. Oh, I don't need to do it that way. I need to, you know, make sure that I'm just using the tools that I have. So I'm just going to select the move tool, and you should have this little bar up at the top, and then just choose, you know, canvas is what you're aligning to, and then just use the center. And yeah, I'm not going to obsess over the fact that doesn't line up perfectly. It's close enough, you know. So yeah, I'm going to go through and make the rest of these. Let's get our colors right. Let's do that. So I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to bring this opacity back up, and I'm going to actually get a little palette layer going. So I'm going to make a new layer and call it palette. And, you know, I do see some variations in the red here. I mean, we're not going to go to that level. We're just going to try to look at a solid part of the red and get a close color. So there's that. And then I'm going to choose my paintbrush. I'm going to make it hard and fairly big. Let's make it bigger. And I'm just going to start working my palette down this side. So I'll just put, you know, oh, that's not my color. What happened? Oh, give me my color. Okay. Yep. Don't need black. There's my red. All right. So now I can turn the opacity back down here, so we can just see it to line things up. And then I'm going to change the color of this text. Oh, cancel. Cancel. Get the right layer. There we go. And then just change the color of this text. So this red. And then we can see that it's got a stroke around it. So let's do blending options. And we're going to get a, you know, either a stroke or an outer glow. So stroke, whites. Let's give it some size. Just a little bit. You know, a little goes a long way with stroke, in my opinion. And I'm, you know, finding myself turning this opacity back up and looking at it over and over again, because yeah, that's also got like an inner bevel. And it does look like a stroke and not a glow. It might not be pure white on that stroke. That looks a little hard. So you just go, you know, just go in a little bit. Just make it not quite so hard. Like, keep it in the white range. But it's rare to actually have that pure white look, you know. So we're going to play with bevel. And we're just going to see what it can do. Let's look at an inner bevel. And don't think we want that much depth. I don't know, that's not terrible. Yeah, I'm not going to bore you all with how long you can spend, you know, playing with the different settings. And I'm just going to we're going to do a tiny little inner bevel. we're going to shrink down the size on it so it's just subtle. And let it go. All right. So that's that one. So, yeah, I'm going to go through and use those same techniques to make the rest of these layers. Okay, I'm working my way through it. I decided I wanted a different, slightly darker color for the text on the bottom here. And, I'm seeing that satin really, that emboss we've got on there is really popping and changing the color. So you move this down, and then I'm just using Shift and Alt to get it close. And as you can tell, I'm not obsessing about not lining up perfectly. I mean, this is my redo of the composition, so I should just have faith in that. And yeah, so, these might not be capitals. I might have done that wrong. Let's see. No, they look fine. Okay, so there we go. And I did choose, this font actually is like, it's like a capital case. I don't know what you call that, where it's got capital letters for the uppercase and capital letters for the lowercase. And I actually like the impact that we're getting. So I'm just, varying slightly from the original. I like the impact that we're getting from the capitals. I just think it makes the words have a little bit more of a punch. So that's what I'm doing there. All right. Okay, so our next step is going to be do some of this curved text. And I feel like I'm kind of working from the front back, and that's not normally what I do. I work from the back to the front, but I've just got the text, and I'm getting all the text knocked out, and that feels good. So, there's no right or wrong way to do that. Having a little trouble with my pen tool. I was just about to start drawing this curve for Born as a Baby up here. And so I'm just going to save my work. So, that's always really important as you're working through. And with Photoshop, you can save to the cloud. I like to keep things on my computer. I'm just old school. And I'm just going to call this King PSD. Oh, I've got caps lock on, my old friend. I literally pull the caps lock keys off of my computer because I can't stand it. So this might not be capitalized. No, it wasn't. And I'm just have to make it that way. So let's fix that real quick. That might line up a little better now with the original. Yeah, that looks good. All right. So I'm going to save that, and I'm going to close Photoshop and come right back. So now we're going to tackle the curved text. And, just preface this by saying, I'm not a big fan of paths in Photoshop. I mean, I probably don't know how to use them right. But, I'm just not a fan. And, I'm going to bring these guidelines out and try to give myself some visual cues of where I want this. What I'm not a fan of is it just doesn't feel very precise to me. And it's probably, like I said, that I don't know, something. So I'm going to just get these as close as I can to where I want this. And it's snapping on me, which I probably can figure out how to turn off snapping, but I'm going to let it go. Let it go. And then there's my pen tool. I'm just going to click. I'm zoomed in pretty good. I mean, you can get close. And then you've got more precise. And I've got these guidelines. And I do believe it's going to snap. And I'm just going to click. And then I'm going to come over here. I've got the pen tool out. And I'm going to hold down Shift and click. And I'm going to try to deliberately do it down a little bit so you can see that it made it straight. Because of my holding down Shift. Yeah, so, all right, so now we're going to look at this image, and I'm going to put a center line on it. And so it does kind of snap. It's literally telling me it's right at 1200 pixels, so that's great. So there's my center line, and I'm going to take my pen tool, and I'm going to get my add anchor point. And I'm just going to add here in the middle. And this might be a little bit of experimentation required. I'm not a fan of the tool. in Photoshop. I try to avoid it as much as possible, and therefore I don't get good with it. So now I'm just going to hold shift while I drag this up. Okay, all the points were selected, so that was a mistake. So let's click off. Let's get that one point selected. We can see that's blue and the white ones. So I'm going to hold shift and drag this up. Is it going to let me? Shift. Yeah, it's going. And there I've got a really close approximation of that curve. All right, so that's our work path. And I didn't show this part, but I switched over here to the path so I could see it. Now I'm back on my layers, and I'm just going to use my text tool. And when you hover over it, it actually selects, where you can see that it's going to go on that curve. So it might be hard to see on your screen, but it's got a little box around it. And then when I hover over the part of the path, it actually has a text. And I'm going to left align it. This, again, might take some experimentation. And just click. And it says lorem ipsum. And I'm going to just type our text. All right. And then we're going to size it. So we're over here in our fonts, and we're just going to step up the fonts. That's not having an effect. Click off. I'm going to select, the layer's still selected, but now I've just got my move tool. And we'll back that just down just a little bit. So that's close. Let me pause and just play with this for a second. So I'm thinking that's close enough. Let's look at it with black. Yeah, it's close enough. I'm going to accept it. All right, so now I'm going to hide it and just look at the colors back there. So I don't see anything. There's so much, degradation. It's really hard to tell. I just see color. It's not black. It's close. So I'm just going to add that to our palette. Oops. Okay. Go down here to my palette layer. Get my paintbrush. Hopefully I've still got that color there. Yep, that's the color. So that's what we're going to go with. We can change all these after we're done. So let's just choose that color. Picker's right in the way, of course. All right. Yeah, close enough. I think it works. Okay, so I'm doing the bottom part. And I'm just going to turn my opacity down so I can see my letters a little better, but still see the original. And let's go back up here. And when I duplicated that layer up above just by doing right-click and duplicate layer, it made another work path. So there's or type path, I guess is what it's saying here. So that's got another type path. And I had to reduce the font. Up there we were at 158 point. Now down here we're at 138 points to span just about the same amount of space. And so, to make the letters look similar, we're going to use this vertical scale on our text panel here to, just kind of increase that vertically. And then we're going to try to edit the path. Let's see if we can do that. And I'm just going to hold shift again as I pull this down. That looks pretty good. Obviously we can keep adjusting it. Looks like I need a little more vertical scale if I want to be true to the original. And I'm going to choose the move tool and just scoot it up with my arrow keys. And yeah, not trying to achieve perfection here, just trying to get close. And that looks close to me. Okay, so we're about an hour in, and this is what we've got. And we made some significant progress, in my opinion. We're going to do a little bit of cleanup, and I've got my layers here. All these text layers are going to be on the very top. they're all going to be at the same, none of them overlap. So I'm just going to group them, and I'm going to call it text. So now we have our text layers in place, and we can start working on some of the other elements. So here we go. So now we're going to go on and do the banner, and just keeping my place there. And so that banner, I'm going to try to draw it in Inkscape. But I'm first going to go look and see if we can find something in the public domain. So we're going to go to public domain vectors, and plenty of free sites out there. This is just one that I like. I like the name of it. Public domain's great. Love that name. And so I just searched for banner, and we're just having a look here, and there's one. That one looks really good. It's got shadows, it's got problems, that we don't want, but we're going to go ahead and download it and see if we can make it work. And I'll apologize in advance if we don't get there with this, but we're going to try. It's always nice to have something to start with. So we're going to open that up with Inkscape. And unlike Photoshop, Inkscape is free. And you can probably do a lot of what I'm showing you in Photoshop with Photopea. That's, I don't even know if I pronounced that right, but that's a free Photoshop application. Inkscape, you can get it at inkscape.org, and it's free, and it's lovely, and I've used it for many, many years, and I just swear by it. So, all right, so we have got this image, and we're going to start dissecting it, and, it's got a little C here. I don't know what he's trying to make sure everybody knows that it's Creative Commons, I guess. Thank you. Appreciate that. And we're going to go to our, you've got layers, which I don't see any. So we'll go to objects. This was probably not created in Inkscape. So when you look at objects, you can start kind of breaking up these different pieces and understanding where they come from. So that's obviously that top layer. If we open that up, let's see, there's a group inside it. And what I'm looking to do is just get rid of that background shadow. We don't need that. In fact, I'm just going to delete it completely just so it's gone. And then let's keep looking inside here. So we got that, and then we've got this piece. I don't want that shadow, so I'm just going to look for it. Yeah, there's two groups over here. Yeah, there's one of them. Go away. And there's another one, so go away. All right, so we've got a decent little vector image here that's close enough. It works for me. Could trace it ourselves, and we're probably going to have to do a lot of work to it to get it right, but let's just try to make it happen. So I've selected this object, but it's saying paint is undefined. Well, he's got it grouped. So when you scroll in, click in here, and then click again, it's still paint is undefined. Let's see if we can find it. So there's two groups there, and now we're inside, and we're actually looking at this gradient. So let's just come over here and grab the color of the banner from our palettes. And I could click on there, but I mean, by consistently using my palette, at least I'm, always using the same color, because obviously you can tell there's a whole bunch of different colors in here, and so clicking on the banner each time might not be reliable. So let's just grab that. It looks like it's just 6,000, and then we're going to grab our gradient edit tool here, and then we're going to start playing with these stops. So it looks like there's the two stops on either the top and the bottom here, which is probably the left and the right down here, are the same color, and then there's a color in the middle. So let's just try choosing one of these stops, and we're going to paste in our 6,000 so we get our red going, and then I'll do that for the first stop as well. And then the middle is a big problem. So look at the edge here, these edges, they're 9600 up here in the RGB. So let's look at the middle one, and we don't need it to be full on 255. It's 255.00. We'll just pull that down, to something reasonable. So we still get a little gradient because I like the gradient. I can't really tell if the original has a gradient or not, but I like it. It adds a little bit of interest. And I also like these strokes, and I like this back panel on this design. So let's look at these edges. So now we've got 7095 as the original gradient, and we've got 878 as our gradient. And I just keep double clicking until, I get in there and find the actual object. So we're just opening up those groups by double clicking, and we'll just choose our new gradient. And so again, we'll just double click. So now we've got the same gradient going across them, and we've lost some of the appeal because this, was a darker color. And so we're just gonna see if we can't fix that. I don't want it to be black, but I want some shadow there. Yeah, we'll just go somewhere in there. All right, and so now, let's see. Let's test this. Let's test fit it in the document. So we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to save it as. I'm going to save it in my King folder, and I'm going to call it banner. And then we're going to, just see how it looks in Photoshop. So let me clean up some of these folders I've got open. Pop this one open. So there's our banner, and we'll just pull that right in. And then I'm going to pull it just under our text layer. So, I didn't take the stroke away. And the original definitely doesn't have stroke. And I'm kind of a fan of the stroke here, but it might make things look cheesy. So I believe we can just go back to Inkscape and edit it. I don't know, the stroke is helping because it's giving that separation on those edges. And I like that. So I'm going to leave it for now. But what I was saying is I think we could just actually pull that open in Inkscape and just keep editing it. And if we save, it should update this copy in Photoshop. You might have to tell Photoshop to do that. But yeah, that's working. That's working pretty well for me. As our banner. So let's keep experimenting with this and trying it. Let's turn our text layer back on. Oh yeah, that's right. So our text layer, it had that white on the other copy. So let's see if we can create that. Let me experiment with that. I'll be right back. Okay, so first thing I'm going to try to do is turn on my checkered background. Is I just like working that way. Checkerboard background. That's great. And then I'm going to pull in our reference image. So let's just pull that in. Embed is good. Let's look at layers. I should make a new layer. Yeah, I'm actually just going to delete that for ease here and then add a layer. And then I'm going to select everything. And I'm going to hit Control X. And then Control Alt V. It's Control Shift V in Photoshop. Control Alt V in Inkscape. Paste in place. And if you forget that, you just go up here. Paste in place. Control Alt V. And so now that's all on that layer. And I'm just going to add another layer. And I'm going to call it Reference. And I'll put it below Current. Add. And that's where I'm going to drag our reference on and hit embed. Okay. So I put that on another layer so we can do the same thing and just lower the opacity. And also I can lock it and not accidentally select it. But before I do that, I'm going to unlock it. Sometimes you have to double click that. And just kind of size it up. I'm going to use the minus key on the keyboard. And I'm holding Shift. What do I need to hold? Shift and Control. so that I don't lose my aspect ratio. That's the word I was looking for. And then I'm just going to align and distribute this to the page and center it up so we can get close. And we're just going to get close. We're not going to copy exactly. So there's that drawing. So let's see how we can do this. We're just going to experiment here. I'm going to take another layer and hit plus here and above current, and I'm just going to call this drawing. Can't help myself, I've got to rename this one to banner. And here's my drawing. I'm going to lock both the banner and the ref so that I know I'm not going on there, and I've got this layer selected when I start drawing. All right, and I'm just looking at my reference image there. So maybe down, right in here, we'll just start making some shapes. You know what? I'm just going to do this sideways and then tilt it probably. I keep making these statements and then rethinking what I've said. So I'll just draw us. Oh, I have my Spyro tool on. I don't want that. I want regular Bezier paths. And I'm just going to put my point where I want it. And look at it and then tweak it. All right, so I got 3 shapes here. I don't need this to have this Bezier handle, so I'm going to change that to corner. Not sure why that didn't work for me. Corner, please. Wonderful. Yeah, and I just think I'm going to do a better job drawing these spikes. I'm going to put a guideline for myself. I'm just going to draw them proportionally and then angle them. So I'm going to make these nodes corner too, because it's just a hard line. In the quest for perfection, it's always so extreme. Let's make sure these are on this line. So I'm holding control so that I stay on the same plane horizontally, and then it's snapping that one to that guide. So I should have done both at once. I'm hitting Control Z there. I'm going to deselect and then just make sure that one's also snapped. And just kind of refining the shape. All right. We're going to act like that's what we want. And I'm looking a little too close here. I need to probably zoom out. Yeah, there is some space in between them. So let's just copy these nodes. I'm going to copy them and paste them. I'm going to try that Control-Shift-V for paste in place. Is that working for me? No. Control-C, Control-Alt-V. Awesome. So that is working. And I think I've got 2 separate objects. No, I think I've actually just got 1 object there because they're both lighting up. No, it's 2 separate objects. I tricked myself. So I've got 2 objects now, which I'll join them later. I'm just going to scoot that up so it's just like the other one. And then we'll take them both. Okay. And see, it's trial and error. That's what we're doing here. So I'm going to delete this one, actually. I'm going to copy this one and then it's Alt-V. And then I'm just going to use my arrow keys to move it down. And that way I can make sure I'm moving it down a controlled amount. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do I like that? Yeah, I think I like 5. All right. And then I'm going to copy, Control-V, and then Control-Alt-V. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, and I know that's consistent. And so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spikes. Looks like we're on track to maybe get there. Control C, Control Alt V. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And that looks right. So that's 8. So we can take all of these and we can make them pointier if we want to. And we can make them bigger. I think I want to spread them out. So I'm just going to pop the first one up 1. No. I'm thinking this through as I'm doing it. Just mumbling to you guys as I go. So I'm going to move all of them down 1. Just 1 click on the mouse, and then I'll move the next one down. And I'll move the next one down. Just spreading them out. Oops. Select that one. Move it down 1. All right, so that's kind of filling the space pretty good. Okay, so now let's just combine them. So we're going to do path, combine, and then we're going to go through here and join these paths up. So I'm going to just select this and this and draw a connection between them. Put a, what do they call that? A new segment. So there's my segment. I'm going to try to move this line out of my way just because it's visually, giving me trouble. I could also turn, well, no, I'm fine. So I'm just going to keep putting these segments together. Segment. 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 Okay, so that's got this one side done. And now let's kind of put it in place. So we're just going to tilt the whole thing. And I'm really struggling with where to line this up, like what angles to line this up with. Let's line it up with, and we don't really have a straight edge to line up with, so we'll just eyeball it. That's what we do. I'm getting some reference up here. And see, that seems a little extreme to me for our curve. So we'll just kind of pull that in. I think I like it. We'll run with that. Okay, so now we need to make the rest of this. And I don't know if Inkscape will actually snap a ruler for us like Photoshop does. Let's look at what our document size is real quick. Let's just do File, Document Properties. Okay, so it's 717 wide, and that's fine. So the middle of our document is like somewhere 358. All right, let's just drop that right about there. Now we'll take this curve tool and we'll click. It's just going to snap to that. And for this, I actually do want my spiral on because it makes such a nice shape. And I just Control Z because I didn't like what I saw. And I'm seeing now that I need a little bit of space off the edge there. So we'll just kind of keep playing with this. I'm really just looking at the curve itself and trying to follow the curve above it. I probably could just copy that curve and make that work for us so that it'd be perfect. I'm just going to Control Z that last touch I made and go back up here, and then yeah, that looks good enough. Oh, I lost it because I didn't confirm. I'm just trying to draw half of this shape. So I'll click and I will confirm. And then I'm going to take this and do path, object to path. And that should take the spiral off. So now that I've just got a normal shape, and I'm just going to delete this, or a normal path there. So I delete that, and then we'll take this and we'll scoot it up a little bit. Let's see. Let's get our move tool. And just try scooting that up. And I realize that's going to kind of play with the angle back here. You all are seeing it in real time. All mistakes included. So I'm just trying to eyeball that. I'm just lining it up. And then we're going to copy that and try pasting it and see if we can't get something similar down here that looks nice. And it looks like that curve's not going to work for both sides, but we'll make this happen. So now I'm just going to take everything that I'm working on this layer, and I'm going to squish it slightly so that I get more of my red part showing. And then I'm going to join these up. So we want to take this and this and this and do path combine. And then I'm going to join these segments right here. So let's just segment and segment. And let's step back and look at it. It's not terrible. I think if I was getting paid for this, I would definitely try harder. But we're doing this for fun and a friend. So I'm just using that center line and letting those nodes snap to it and kind of fixing that up. And then we're going to grab this whole piece and Control C and then Control Alt V, paste in place. And then we're going to go to Object and we are going to flip it on the horizontal. And then we're going to zoom out so we can see what we're doing. And I'm holding Control as I pull it over, and it should snap. It's snapping to the guide, which I can already see is not, it's not perfect. It's probably passable. And then we take these two and do path combine, and then we're going to stitch it right in the middle. So we'll just grab those, and we will make sure that those are joined so that we have a solid, complete path that doesn't have any missing parts. And then I'm going to try, I may have to cut this thing back apart, if I don't get what I like here. It's just not sitting just right where I want it. Let's try align and distribute and see what it looks like if we center it. Oh yeah, that's better. Okay, I think I'm good with that. All right, so let's color it up. So we're gonna go to fill and stroke, and we're gonna go to the stroke paint, and we're gonna ditch that, no stroke, and then we're gonna add a flat color, and we're just gonna make it white. And that's our banner shape. We're running with it. Let's go. All right, so we're just going to go back to this other layer, and I'm going to turn off my reference, and I'm just going to save this, and we're going to test that theory if it'll update for us, let's right click on this. I thought there was a way to actually update a layer. Layer. Let me look for that and not waste your time. Hang on. Okay, I found what I was looking for. So you literally go to Layer Smart Objects, and then you do Relink to File. And then I'm just choosing that. I'm sure there's another thing. And I don't know why that it's not placed in the right place. So I'm not going to stress about that. I'm going to hold Shift to constrain it and just pull it down to where it goes. You know, and our preached as a child is kind of getting in the, it's getting a little bit up into that space, and so I'm just going to pull it down. So we're starting to deviate from the original, but I think that's good. I mean, I really do. I think a little overlap there on that P is fine. So there we have our born as a baby. Yeah, I'm thinking that looks pretty good. I don't know what you all think, but everybody's got an opinion, right? So, in my opinion, this looks good. Oh, I think I see what's happening. Because I've still got that layer in this document, Photoshop is treating... Oh, plus I got a couple of these open. Let me close that one. I think because I've got this image in this document, let me get rid of these guides. Just kind of clean up our... And let me get rid of this ref image. I'm going to unlock that and just delete it out of here. And then I'm just going to delete that whole layer. So I just have my 2 layers now, and I can lock it. We'll just save that again. I'm just doing this for everybody's sake. Oh, and look, it just live updated that time. So it's actually, you know, if I left it alone and left it where it was, and taken that layer out that was making it bigger than it needed to be, we would have been in good shape. So let's just not get too much up on our word there. There's preached as a child. Let's play with the adjustments there. And let's turn off our reference and just see what we've got. Yeah, so that's what I was just about to do. Let's stretch this banner to give ourselves a little more room, because our banner is different. I'm going to hold Shift and Alt, and that's respecting the it's respecting the aspect ratio. Gosh, I keep searching for that. All right, and that looks good. And then we're going to come back in here to our born as a baby. And I think we're going to give it some of that vertical stretch like we did down below. Let's see if we can get that to work. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then we're going to scoot it just a tiny bit down so it lines up with this. And then I'm going to adjust the work path, or the type path, to just better follow. I mean, it's such a tiny change, but maybe it's just a little more on. Okay, and then I'm going to take this and duplicate that and get it on the bottom and see if we can make that look good. Let's collapse our text and open our reference back up. So yeah, it's literally just the same banner. I think that our banner up there is a lot fatter than the original. And trying to line all these elements up, maybe we're overwhelming ourselves with that. So let me do a little playing here. Okay, so I just made some executive decisions and went ahead and squished this vertically. So, instead of respecting the aspect ratio, I just hit Control T and then just squished it without, holding Shift or anything. So So that's closer, and it looks a little bit better. And so now let's just duplicate that layer. And I'm hoping this works out. We'll just do edit transform and flip it vertical. And we'll pull that right down. I'm going to hold shift to constrain and put it right here. And then we're going to do that same. Let's find our text and adjust that path to just conform with this a little bit better. I'm holding shift. Yeah. That looks pretty good. Okay, so let's step back and look at our work. We'll turn off our reference. This is what we've got. So we've really done all the text. And I was about to say on all the vector elements, but we have those crucifixes. So let's look at doing that in Inkscape. So I'm just going to come over here to our banner, and wish I had my reference still on here. Let's make a copy of the reference image. And sorry if this is getting long. You know, I never know how much to show and how much I need to just cut out to make the viewing a little bit better. Well, I'm just going to just take just this shape, and we will copy that. And I'm going to do File, New, Create, and paste. Obviously copied the wrong. Here we go. Let's copy from here, copy, and paste that in here. And then we'll do File, Export, and we'll just save that for web. And we're going to save it. And I'm going to save it in our folder. And I'm going to call it Crucifix 1. And this is such a simple shape that it's a toss-up whether I can find it on the web faster or just create it. So let's come in here. I'm going to close out of this banner. Close. Clean up my workspace. Start Inkscape again. And then we're going to draw this. We're going to try to just draw right over this crucifix. And we'll embed that. This is another, I'll make another layer and we'll call it drawing. And then I'm going to take this layer and take the opacity down so that I can see my drawing over it real easily. All right. So here we go. And so we're just going to wing this. Let's just draw one side. I got my spiral on, so I'm doing good. We'll just draw this like that. Boop. And I'm going to enter to confirm. And then I'm going to turn off my spiral. And I'm going to deselect off that path and just start a new, because I don't want to fight the spiral magic. And then I'm just going to click, about in the center here and confirm. And then we'll just take these two paths and we'll combine them. Oops, forgot to do that first. Hold on. So I want to actually, that's why that layer should be locked. And I actually just drew on the wrong layer. So let's just select these objects. Control X, select the layer, Control Alt V, lock that layer. Make sure that our paths are on the right layer. They are. And so now we're just going to do object, path, object to path. So now that's confirmed the Spyro and then the regular path. So they're both the same kind of path now, for lack of a better terminology. And then we'll just click here and we're going to stitch these corners so that they're connected. Join those nodes. And then we're going to take this and copy it and paste it. Control Alt V, we paste it in place. And then object, flip horizontal. And we're just going to drag this over until we get our cusp node. And now I'm looking at it, and I think it needs to be a little bit wider. So we're just going to make it wider. All right. And then we are going to combine them. path combine, and then we're going to go and, you guessed it, join those nodes. Okay, so now we're going to work with the rotation, and we're going to select the object. Oh, and I might have to go look for this because I'm used to seeing my center point of my rotation when I have it in this mode. So let me go figure out why I don't see that. Oh my gosh, so I just literally needed to click again. So you click again, you get your rotation, and there's your center point. I don't know why I expected that to be showing. So now I'm just going to pull that center point down, and then I'm going to Control C and then Control Alt V, and then rotate around that center. And then we'll Control Alt V, and we'll rotate around that center. I'm holding Control as I spin, and that well, it just lets it stay on an axis. So it kind of defaults to 45-degree increments as it rotates. And so now we're going to stitch these together. So let's just take this and we'll just do path combine. We'll grab our little tool and we will just join them. Join. So we could obviously apply the stroke and do everything we need to right here in Inkscape. But it's not my preference. I'd rather have a clean shape and then be able to add stroke in Photoshop. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this layer. And we're just going to clean up the document. So we're going to go to File, Document Properties. I like to use PX for units. And we're just going to make this 500 by 500. So it's 500 pixels. It doesn't matter. It's a vector object. It can be any size. But that's just, making my document nice and square. And then I'm going to position this X0, Y0 with 500 and height 500. And now I know I've got a perfect square shape. And so now we're just going to save that. And we're going to save it in our downloads, King. And we're going to call it Crucifix 1. And I just realized that I need to do some, I've got some stroke problem here. I just don't want that stroke on. So we'll go to Fill and Stroke. I'm going to take off the stroke paint. I'm going to put on the fill paint. Doesn't matter what color it is. We'll color it in Photoshop. So we'll just go ahead and save that. And then here we go. We're back over in PS. And get rid of that. And then we're just going to drag our little crucifix in. And I'm going to do the turn opacity down again so I can see. I can't see anything. There we go. And here's our crucifix. Let's Control T, Shift and Alt to keep the transformation going consistently. We're going to line it up. I don't know why it's doing that weird jumping. And, let's look at color. So let's actually bring this opacity back up. So I think in the original, this was about the same color as here. So let's just, we'll take our text and we'll find that layer. And I'm just going to copy layer style. Where are you? There you are. Copy layer style. And then we'll come back over here. I'm just going to pull this up and put it right above the text because that makes sense to me. And then we'll paste that layer style. So now we got our style. And then we're going to add, that's my color. So let's see if we can't get that color. That's that color. And then we're going to try to add this color overlay and hope that it doesn't knock out the bevel and emboss. So let's just, yeah, it looks good. Yep, stroke's the same. Got the same bevel. Works for me. All right, so let's duplicate this layer. And then we're just going to drag it over and just eyeball place it. I think it's kind of snapping, letting me know that it's lined up. I think it might be snapping right there, and that's perfect. Awesome. Okay. All right, so now we have our other crucifix, and then we have our double-bladed sword. So I'm just going to go make those objects the same way, same technique, nothing to see here, and be right back. Okay, so we've got those pieces drawn in, and I'm just going to do a little cleanup here. I'm going to call these my vector objects. So we've got our document kind of broken up here. We got our vector objects, and then we got our text. And I might as well group these banners together too. Don't want to get too groupy, but we are. So yeah, that is where we're at. We have worked all these pieces out at this point. So now we have to do the fun stuff. Okay, so looking back at our list, we still need our lion, our knight, our messy cross. We've already done the double-sided flourish. Got all that taken care of. So let's go. I want to go look for the knight. I think I'm most worried about finding the knight. So we'll go look for that. All right, so here we go. So this is how we find images that we can use. I've already searched for knight kneeling down and just revealed it. And, we want to go to images. And then we want to go to tools, and then we want to do usage rights and Creative Commons. So we just want to see, the images that are out there that are Creative Commons. And there's so many places to go look for images. There's public domain pictures. I mean, I could go on and on about this. If you're doing this work for, somebody that's paying you, you obviously can go to Adobe stock and or any of the stock websites, 123 RF. There's so many out there, and pay for images. But in this case, I'm trying to do this as free as possible. And I've got this image, and I don't mind it. I mean, it's not as beautiful as the knight in the original, but it looks pretty good, and so that's what I'm going to try to use. So we're going to come here. Be careful on sites like this. They're just so, I don't know. There's just so much out there. And I'm always scared, when you're downloading from a site you're not familiar with. But I've actually been to this one before, and I think it's okay. And it looks like the biggest size they have this in. See, that's an ad. I hate it when they do that. They've literally tried to trick me into downloading it. Again, be careful. I mean, this download button is probably not the one that we want. It says it's loading our wallpaper. Let's see. Yeah, that looks great. I don't know if it's actually made it that size, because that's obviously not what I want. So I'm going to go back. And we're going to look at this again. Choose resolution and down. Oh, there's download original. That's what I want. We're just going to try to. Oh. All right. Okay. Little trial and error, and we got it. And I'm just looking at it for quality, and it looks just fine. It looks great. So we've got our image. So we are going to put that in our folder. I'm going to rename it because we got to stay organized or we get lost. I'm going to call it Night or Ridge. I call that for like the original version that I got. And then I'm going to work on, removing this background. So let's just open that up. It's nice and big. We can look at the properties and see how big it is. Yeah, it's 3264 by 4928, so it's plenty big, and we're only using it really small in our image, so that's not going to be a problem. All right, so let's open this up with Photoshop. So, it's pulling it in here where I can work with it. I'm just going to open. I don't think I need any tweaks here. And I'm just going to go save our work. As I work with another large image, I don't want to accidentally lose, what we've done. So I'm just going to choose the magic wand. And on this select subject, I'm going to do cloud. And then I'm going to try to select the subject. This might work for us. And it's thinking about it. And we might get lucky, and this might make a really nice selection. Let's just be patient. I'll pause it while it's thinking. So it has actually done a fairly decent job in selecting this subject. So, it's worth it to try to work with this. And if we get frustrated, we'll take a different tact. But I'm going to just make a layer from background. So I'm just, converting that JPEG layer that's flattened and locked into a layer that's editable. But then I'm going to go ahead and convert it to a smart object because that'll, make sure that I can't actually edit this layer. I won't be able to change the pixels of this layer, and that's what I want. I want to preserve it in its full quality. And then I'm going to do Control-Shift-N and add another layer and then pull it down below. And I'm going to grab a nice middle gray. That's what I use for masking. And then, it can be any color, but I like gray for that. And then I'm just going to paint on that layer. And we can't even see it, but if we hide this one, we can see our mask that we're building. And so we're going to just, let's create a clipping mask. And now we can see what our mask is going to do here. So now I'm going to duplicate this layer and pull it down below. And then I'm going to change the opacity of the one behind just enough where I can sort of see things, but I can see the difference between my mask and the original. And then we're just going to come in here and fix this edge up, I could spend many hours doing this, but I'm just going to, try to do a quick and dirty version, if you will. So we're going to Control D to deselect, and then we're just going to paint in the parts that we wanted of the original. So, everywhere that I can see transparency, where I see that checkered background coming from behind, that's what I want to paint in. So let's look. We have a hard brush, and we have our color, and we're on the mask layer, and we're just going to paint, right along here. Just get that detail right there. I don't even know how much of this is going to be seen. And so I just, I don't want to waste time if we don't need to. So I know we saw some problems in the shield up here. Those are pretty evident. Let's paint all that back in. Oh, I got a little outside the lines there. Got a little happy with it. Let's just paint that in. All that looks better. I like seeing that edge of that shield a little better there. I just Control Z. It's nice to start and stop more often than you just saw me do that. So I need to let up on my click a little more often if I'm going to try to work all this detail in. So now you hear me probably clicking over and over again, letting go, so that way my Control Z becomes more useful. And I thought I saw some issues in here. Maybe it's right in here. Let's just turn off this. Yeah, I don't want that. I do want a little more of this belt right here, where it just chopped it away. And I'm just going to experiment with drawing in that. Yeah, I do see more of the shield that I'd like to see. Right in here. I'm just being real careful and let go. You know, that looks pretty good. But I don't want that part. So let's switch over to an eraser tool. And we're just going to use a small little eraser brush and try to get in here close and get rid of some of that. And then we'll just, I'm using the bracket. It's next to the P on your keyboard to actually, you know, just reduce the size of my mouse as I get in closer, to reduce the size of my brush. I'm going to open it back up so we get a little more speed. And that's good. I mean, you know, this isn't perfect. I know we lost parts of the foot. And to see that, I'm going to turn this back on. Yeah, we want some of this foot that's missing. And we can use a different technique for that. So I'm going to make this full opacity. And then I'm just going to grab my magnetic lasso. Actually, let's turn that off. Let's just see that. Yeah, so there's a little bit of this edge right here that I wanted a little more of that. And I mean, it's going to be hilarious if we can't even see this in the final. But it may help us. I'm just going to drag this up and grab that. And then I'm going to paint in that space with it selected. So that's all painted over. And now I'm just doing that to show you guys. You can see. And let's look again at this foot. Yeah, it's missing his heel and his boot here. And it's missing all the way around this part. So I want to get that. So I'm going to just come right along here. We'll Control D to deselect and just try to get this edge. I was about to say, you know, it's never going to be 100% perfect. But we can get pretty close, you know. We can get in there and get some nice detail going at least. And I mean, we're obviously going to get these sticks that we don't really want, but it's going to look better than his foot being cut off. So I'm just trying to follow pieces of the geometry and just kind of come on up here. Oh, it's just starting to get a little crazy on me there. And then we'll just draw it across. And then we'll just paint. And we'll just increase our brush size with the bracket that's next to the, we're just painting all over. It's next to the P, and then you get two brackets there. Left bracket goes smaller, and right bracket goes larger. Yeah, that's better. Not real proud of this piece right here. Just gonna smooth that out, and I'm definitely not proud of the tip of the sword, and I am thinking that might show. Underneath, you know, it's got some potential there to, yeah, and I see that. I think this is the back of his leg, so let's try to get some more of this. Control D to deselect. I feel like my eyes are deceiving me on this part, but I think that I'm seeing the back, you know, his leg going back there. Yeah, this tool can get real squirrely and try to follow the contours you don't want to follow, and you just have to fight it. And I'm just going to draw right across this sword. Oh, it is really fighting me through here. And I can just go over the parts that I don't mind getting. Come back around. And then we'll just make our brush big, and we're going to paint all this in. That looks better. I don't know if I'm worried about getting the other side of that sword, or this robe that's laying down here. Let's try it. Let's just see what we can do. No, it's really fighting me in there. It's just kind of blurry and it's hard for it to find the pixels. I'm going to let it go and focus on the sword. And let's see if we can at least get a nice edge on that. Oh, see it jumping. Let's zoom in. How much of this do we need? We just need this tip of this sword, really. Clicking kind of forces it to start over its reevaluation of what the magnetic lasso is trying to lasso or connect to, the pixels that it's trying to dip in with. And so I'm just going to try to make this shape. You know what? I really just want this to be really strong. So I'm going to use a path. Let's just do that. Let's just grab this. Come down to here. We're going to make our own sword shape. Out of this. Not perfect, but better than what we had. And then we just go over to our paths and you control click it, or I thought you control click on the layer on the little thumbnail there, and then we'll just paint this in. But not sure it got that. Let's just bring this brush tool down. Oh, I know what's happening. I just painted the wrong piece. So we're just going to Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z until I get back to where, yeah, I don't want that. Come on. Control Shift Z. Awesome. Am I fixed? Yes. Paths. Select. And I can see now that I want to edit it. So let's just come in here with our direct selection tool. I'm going to pull this straight up here. Make sure I'm getting a pretty strong sword shape. And then we're just going to control click it again. And what I needed to do was select the inverse. It was painting all around and not on, just what I had. So there we go. All right. That's pretty good. Yeah, I think we can live with this. So now I'm just going to take these two pieces and I'm going to group them. And I'm going to call it night. And then I'm probably going to save this as its own Photoshop document. So I'll just call it night PSD. So that way I can go back and edit it if I need to. But just for ease of working with it on my other document, I'm just going to merge the group. And then I'm going to choose duplicate layer and put it over on my document. And then I'm going to close out of here without saving, so I've got my original quality back there so that I can work with that. And then we'll work on where we're going to place this. Yeah, it goes down here. It's behind everything else we've worked on. And we're just going to size it up like our reference and see what we've really got here. Really want to see that sword. Without having the original image exactly the same, you're going to see something different. But we can get something we're proud of here. So let's just place that there. We can adjust it later. We know we've got more work to do. We want to do the lion, of course. So we'll just leave that there for now. And then we're going to go find a lion, same way. So I'm over at 143vinyl.com and just looking for a lion. I know there's a lions category, so I have that advantage. Yeah, and I really don't see one that I like. I mean, I don't want to use this rainbow lion. I mean, I'm trying to copy that image, so I need to find something that's right in line with it. So let's look on Google, and I've already got the lion search in, Creative Commons license. I think I like this one. Let's go look at the size of it and see if we've got something that's worthy. So it's 2417 by 3021. It looks pixelated, but now my internet's kind of fixed. So yeah, actually that's looking pretty good. I like the piercing look of that. So we're going to click on original file down here and get the largest version we can. And then we're going to go ahead and save this. And we'll save it right in our folder. And I'm going to call it Lion Orig. Keeping my files clean. So Wikimedia Commons is public domain. If you find it on Wikimedia Commons, you're good. But there's a lot of junk on there. And it's almost better to search it on Google than even go into the regular website. And then we'll just do the same kind of tricks here. I'm going to get this lion cleaned up. So we'll get him ready to go. Okay, so on this one, select subject worked pretty well. And we're just going to use some of those same techniques, but I wanted to take a second and talk about, let me just get that done. Layer from background, Control-Shift-N. I'm 4 hours in at this point, and I mean maybe 2 hours of video, so, I'm lagging here. I'm starting to lose it. But let's paint over this. And we got our gray. We'll just paint, and then we'll create our clipping mask. And now what I wanted to talk about is how to chop off the king's head here. So, we really, you want to find details that you can follow, and you're not going to want to go too deep here. You do want a hard edge, especially if you're going to print this for DTF. You don't want faded edges. You want hard edges. And that's because DTF, puts white pixels behind everything that you print. So you're, if you want a faded edge, you really kind of have to do halftones, or at least that's the edge of my knowledge. So I'm just going to try to follow some of these curves and just come right around. I'm finding geometry to latch onto as my point where I'm going to cut things off. So now I'm good, and I'm going to come all the way around, and I'm just going to come back and join up, and then I'm going to select my mask layer and just delete. And it's not symmetrical. It's pretty good. I mean, it's good enough for the purpose that I have here. So, same technique. We're just going to save this as, just in case we want to edit it later. I'll call that lion. And then I'm going to merge these layers, and then duplicate and put it over on our drawing. So there we go. We're getting our pieces together. Gosh, I know this has been long, and we're I never expected it to take this long. I never do. I always expected I'd get it done faster, and then it never happens. So sorry about that. Looks like I might have some pieces that are holding this edge open. Yeah, I see it now. I've got this mess down here at this bottom. So I'm just going to, before I do anything else, we're going to take a regular lasso tool, and I just forgot to get rid of that. So we'll delete that. And then I'm going to convert this to a smart object. And what that does is it actually holds the pixels in place You won't gain any pixels or lose any pixels from resizing. And I'm just going to change the opacity here and just drop it down so that I can hopefully see my lion and the original. So I think the important thing here is to try to line these eyes up. You know, the guides are kind of getting in my way visually, so I'm just going to release them. Let's clear our guides. And then I'm going to name this layer lion. Just, can't stand it being layer 1. And then I'm just going to stretch this out, and I'm trying to see where the eyes are behind it. So I am expanding this, and I'm losing, I'm not going to have, the image I found, I guess, was not big enough. But I'm not going crazy. That's the thing. It's like I see people, putting, 100 pixel images out there and, trying to print them like 10 inches wide. I just made it maybe 25% larger. It's not a huge change, and that's what's important. So let's see if we've got that. Let's just play with this opacity. There's our eyes. And there's the lion's eyes. It's pretty close. Let's just nudge this. And now I'm looking at the nose. And I'm thinking about the eyes being level. And just trying to get everything placed really pretty. I think that's pretty good. So I'm going to look. I don't want hard edges. So I've obviously got a little bit too much of the lion here. I'm just going to bring him in a little bit. And then we'll make the opacity full, and we'll take this out, and we'll just look at it, and see if we see any problems. So I think it's pretty good. Okay. So let's duplicate this guy. And we'll hide this copy. And then we're going to try to put a nice filter over this. So, this is just plain. It's going to take me a second to find the right adjustment layer. Yeah, let's look at a hue saturation. Well, what's black and white going to do for us? Yeah, let's use the previous layers of clipping mask. That's correct. That's getting us kind of in the right zone. That's got that black and white effect. I think I'm good with that. We could mess with it more, and we could, put another layer on it. But that's good. That's good enough for now. And then, let's bring our knight above the lion and just look at our placement. I think we've got some nice placement here. Let's see. Is he centered? Looks like he is. And I'm going to center him visually with the lion. And I'm going to shrink him down. Shift-Alt. And we're just going to take a look at that and look at our original. I'm going to make a new group and call this images. And that way we can just turn it off all at once. Let's turn our night back on. certainly not terrible. It's looking pretty good. Okay, let's work on the cross. So now I'm just going to open up this images group, and I am going to create a new layer right above. Control Shift N. I'm just kind of a placeholder layer there for me. And then we're going to use our rectangle tool. We'll draw out a rectangle. And it looks like my fill was set to nothing, so I'll set that fill to black just so we can see it. And I'm not sure why it's not showing on the stage. Where are you, rectangle? It's right there. Oh, I've got the entire layer turned off. Let's turn it back on. So I'll pull this rectangle above. I got that group turned off, so I'll pull it out of the group while I'm working with it. And then let's do the other piece. So we've got that rectangle. I'm just going to make sure it's centered. And then I'm going to duplicate it. And then we'll just go to layer. I want transform. Oh, bear with me here. Why can't I find that? Let me look for it. Oh, it's edit. Edit, transform, and we'll just rotate that clockwise. And then I'm just going to size it up. I'm going to hold Shift. I'm going to just hold Alt. That way it can squish. And yeah, that's pretty much right on. And then I'm going to just not hold anything while I pull this all the way down. I'm just completing it, I guess, for my own sake. I know what's back there. All right. And so those two, I'm going to take that and we're just going to rasterize the layers, and it just rasterized those out of shapes. And I just noticed that maybe there's that, no, there's not stroke. I think it's just showing me that it's selected. Let's merge them. Yeah, there must have been a stroke around, and I didn't intend for that. So let me back that off. Let's unrasterize them. Let's get rid of the stroke. All right. And then we're just going to rasterize them again. So layer. So what that does is it makes it not a vector object anymore. And then I'm just doing that so that I can combine them easily. So no, I didn't want to group. I wanted to merge. Control E merges. All right, so there's my rectangle copy. And now I'm going to pull that down below our lion. I'll turn this group back on. And then here's the magic part. We're just going to create a clipping mask and get that shape out of that rectangle. All right, and then I'm not sure if we can do this or not, but I'd like to just add a stroke. And I know our original had a messy stroke, and I know that we can do that. Obviously, we can make ours have a messy stroke, but I'm just kind of running out of time and patience. So I'm just going to get through this. All right, and the last thing I want to do is on our knights, we're going to do a drop shadow. We're going to change the angle. We're going to spread it out, increase the distance and the opacity, and just cut him off of that background. So we'll spread it out. It's a pretty strong shadow, but I think that is going to help all of that look a lot better. Wow. It's been a journey, and I appreciate it if you have stuck through all of this with me. Like I said, I did not expect it to get this long. You know, I'm going to clean this up. I'll take this palette and pull it below my images. So I got my palette and my ref down here. I'm just going to create a new layer with black. I'll call this background. And I'm just doing this so that we can kind of see a funnel. So that's our final. And wow, it's been a journey. Like I said, I'm tired. I need to go take a break. I hope this helped. I hope that people learned from this. And I'm just sorry that it was so long. All right, this is Mike White signing off. You guys have a great day.